Yeah, believe it or not all at once. Not all at once. Yeah, more so in sets of 10. I started with 10 at the start, and by the end, I was down to 6. 6 was all I could get up, so. Ooh, that was a good flop.
Let's touch the others.
Nice job. That's a first blood off, first blooded. That was a good flop. Okay, oh, he got war flag. That is cheeky. Cheeky. All right, so in our Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring update. So we left off.
Yeah, careful.
We left off with the Fellowship leaving Rivendell. They were like, all right, we're officially gonna do this. It's time for us to go on a journey. And they start their journey, and Boromir is like, all right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make for the Gap of Rohan. And Gandalf is like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. Literally the opposite of what Boromir says, because that is the dumbest idea I have ever heard. He's like, no, for realsy though, we should go through the Gap of Rohan. And Gandalf is like, no, you don't understand. Isengard is bad, okay?
Sorry for being
So we are not gonna go do that. He's like, fine, where are we gonna go then? And Gandalf and Aragorn are like, we're gonna go to the mountains. Because we have kind of two options here. And Boromir's like, in one of them the Gap of Rohan. They're like, one of them is not the Gap of Rohan.
Slowed.
And we're gonna go over the mountain.
I got him.
And they're like, all right, cool, go over this mountain. And Gimli's like, you know this mountain is like the worst, right? And they're like, yeah, it's gonna suck. He's like, no, like this mountain is like really mean. It's like the meanest mountain. Like its feelings were hurt many moons ago, and it hates dwarves and it hates elves even more. And they're like, well, we're gonna try to do it anyway. And so they start to go up this mountain, and they're like, aye, it's a little chilly up here. It's a little chilly up here. No doubt, no doubt, no doubt. And then they start to get a little bit further up the mountain, and all of a sudden it just starts downpouring snow on them, like out of nowhere. And they're like, this doesn't feel like a supernatural like snow occurrence. And they're like, no. We are either getting targeted by some enemy that we do not know, or this mountain really do be ornery because they got all them teeth and no toothbrush. And so they're like, well, I guess we're just gonna like push through and just keep going through the snow. And they keep going up through the snow, and then at one point the snow is so high and they're on a cliffside that is so small, and the hobbits literally cannot walk anymore because the snow is taller than the hobbits. It's just straight up taller than them. They're like, I actually cannot walk anymore because we are straight up covered in the snow. We are buried. And they're like, well, that is a bummer. And so then Gandalf is like, yo, I got this really good whiskey. Everybody take a sip of this whiskey. And they all take a sip of the whiskey, and they're like, bro, that is really good stuff. And he's like, yeah. Elrond gave it to me. It's awesome. It'll make the journey a little bit more bearable. And they're like, thanks, Gandalf. But seriously, we cannot continue to go up this mountain. He's like, okay. Boromir's like, here's the deal. I don't care how dangerous it is. We are gonna make a fire, and if the enemy sees us, then the enemy sees us. And Gandalf is like, well, at this point, that seems like a fine idea. So they go to make a fire, and they realize they're in the middle of a giant snowstorm, and nobody can make a fire. So then Gandalf is like, fine, I'll do it. So Gandalf makes a fire for them on the cliffside using magic, and he's like, well, if they didn't know where we were before, this was a giant beacon of, hello, Gandalf the Grey is on the mountain, and everybody knows that we're here now, so good job, guys. And then they wait for the snow to melt around them a little bit. And they're like, okay, so we obviously can't keep going up on this mountain. This is simply just not gonna work. So we gotta go back down the mountain. And they try to go back down the mountain, and they realize that there is a full-blown giant snowdrift behind them that's like 8 feet tall. It's just a solid wall of snow, like 8 feet tall. They're like, what do we do here? And Boromir's like, I am so strong. We will plow through the snow. Aragorn, come to my aid. And they're like, okay, I guess we're just gonna like hand our way out of the snow. And then they just start like digging a path with their hands in their bodies, like through the snow. Meanwhile, Legolas is like giddy like a school child, just running on top of the snow. My man is straight up running on top of the snow, not a care in the world. He's like, I know this doesn't help you guys because you can't walk on top of the snow, but I can walk on top of the snow, so this is literally fine for me. Not a big deal. Doesn't bother me in the slightest, actually. And they're like, you didn't bother me in the slightest, actually, Legolas.
Shock does.
So then eventually they make a giant path through the snow,
Yeah, you do.
and the hobbits are like, okay, but we literally still cannot walk because we're covered in snow and it's taller than us. And Boromir and Aragorn are like, have no fear, we shall make trips and we will come back and get you. So they just start making trips, piggybacking hobbits to get them down off of this giant cliff face. And they're like, all right, and you get to come down the mountain, and you get to come down the mountain. And Gimli's like, I'll figure it out myself. And by that, I mean Gimli hops on the back of Bill the Pony, and Bill the Pony takes him out because he wasn't going to get carried, but also he got carried. You know what I'm saying? And then they're like, woo! Okay, we are down off of this mountain. And Frodo's like twiddling his thumbs, and he's like, so... did we like fail the quest already? Because that was pretty quick. And they're all like, I don't think we go back to Rivendell, because if we go back to Rivendell, like, that's game over. We just lose, right? So they're like, all right, we're not going to go back to Rivendell. And Boromir is like, so we're going to make for the Gap of Rohan. And they're all like, no! We're not going to the Gap of Rohan. Boromir, can you stop recommending that?
Pleasure to meet you.
And then they're like, all right, so we're going to do the other option, which we really didn't want to do, but we're going to go head down to the good old mines of Moria. And Gimli's pumped. He's like, yeah, buddy, give me the mines. He's like, this is the best idea ever. He's like, the mines are going to be glorious. It's going to be so much fun. Gimli is all of a sudden pumped. Like, Gimli was like all sad and depressed. And then he's like, bro, we're going to go to a mine. This has been the best turn of events in the history of the turn of events. And so he's super excited. And everybody else is like, I've only ever heard bad things about Moria. We should not be that excited. And they're like, well, we spent all day coming down this stupid mountain. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and take a quick nappy nap. We're going to eat some food. And then we are going to set out tomorrow for Moria. And they all go to sleepy sleep. And in the middle of the night, they hear a bunch of howling. And they're like, we just cannot catch a break, can we, bro? And there's a bunch of wolves surrounding them now at the campfire. And Gandalf's like trash talking the wolves. He's literally trash talking them. He's like, if you come near me, I'm gonna straight up wizard smite you. And like some of the wolves are getting nervous. And then one jumps out and tries to bite Gandalf. And before it gets halfway to Gandalf, it gets absolutely zinged. Zing! By Legolas, who was just prepped and ready with an arrow and absolutely murders this wolf. And then all of the other wolves are like, all right, I guess I'm going to, I'm not gonna gank you anymore. and then they sleep through the
no,
rest of the night. And then in the morning, they actually get ganked by a giant pack of wargs. They're like, we were just kidding. We are actually going to gank you. And they get ganked by a pack of wargs. And the wargs are like, rawr, I'm going to eat your face. And then Aragorn's like, stabby, stabby, stab. And then Boromir literally slices one in half. And they're like, all right, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt. And then the wargs start to get wrecked. And then Gandalf's like, yo, you know what would wreck them even more, though? Is if I caught all of these trees on fire. So Gandalf, for seemingly no reason, catches like an entire forest on fire to scare these wargs that were already pretty scared to begin with and seemed like it was kind of unnecessary. But he catches like this entire forest on fire and just starts like throwing fire branches at them. He's like, ah, fire! And so he throws all of these fire branches at them from this forest that he just caught on fire. And they're like, bro, this guy is nuts. And so they dipped. And they're like, I literally cannot take this anymore. This is crazy. And they're like, okay, we did it. And then Boromir's like, woo, that was so crazy and risky. Man, being out here is so dangerous. If only there was some sort of, I don't know, gap on the way to some sort of place. Like, I don't know, Rohan, that we could go and just get to Mordor faster. And everybody like looks up Boromir and they're like,
faster than yours.
and they like don't even have to say anything. And Boromir's like, fine, we'll go to Moria. And so then they start making their way to Moria. And everybody's like, yeah, I don't really know super how to get there. Like, I got like a general idea. I'm pretty sure we follow like this river, except for there is no river because the river's all dried up. So they're like, yeah, we're just gonna wing it. And we'll probably figure it out. And it'll be fine. And so they start to wing it. And they start to walk in the general direction, and they're like walking directly at this mountain, and everybody's like, well, we're either gonna get here and it's gonna be the right place, or we just walked up to the wall of a mountain and there's gonna be nothing here and it's gonna be like pretty awkward. Oh my goodness. And so they walk up to the face of this mountain, and sure enough, it is actually the right place. Hallelujah.
It's literally been go at it.
And there's this really nasty lake that they're trying to avoid. Like a really nasty one. It's all like pitch black, and they can't see what's happening in this lake. And they're all like, I don't really want to swim across this lake thing. So instead, we're gonna like kind of parkour our way around it. And we're gonna like climb up these rocks and down a little bit of this. And it's gonna be a little uncomfortable, but I ain't touching the freaky water, bro. And so they go about it, they're going up and down and all around. And they go and they eventually get to the wall, and they're like, all right, there is for sure going to be a door here. For sure, for sure, for sure. And Gandalf's like, yeah, just give me a bit and I'll find it. And so Gandalf just sits there staring at the side of a mountain for a hot minute. And everybody's like, so did he like, is he daydreaming? Did he zone out? Or like what exactly are we, what are we doing here? This is uncomfortable. They're like, Gandalf, the door thing. And he's like, right. The door thing, that's what I was doing. Yeah. The door. And then seemingly instantly, he's like, finds the door. And he's like, here it is. I found the old elven runes. So don't worry about it. And then he highlights the elven runes, and they're like, We need
one more obelisk.
And it's like, hey, there's gonna be a door here. Because dwarven doors are completely invisible when they are closed. Which is like a cool feature to keep out enemies, except for the fact that like people totally forget where the doors are, and then even like the dwarves that made them can't find them again because they totally forget, which seems like a little bit of an oversight, but whatever. And then a giant string of text comes up, and Frodo's like, yo, what does all this text say? And Gandalf's like, don't worry, it is not important
Can you check that all?
at all.
Check that all.
Not
I don't think
important
it
at
is,
all.
but pretty big.
And it says, speak friend, and enter.
They'll give us thing.
And then they're like, what does that mean? And Gimli's like, obviously means if you know the passcode, that you can go in. And Gandalf is like, that is for sure, definitely what this means. And it was not a riddle at all. And so now they are currently sitting there trying to figure out what the heck this definitely not riddle could possibly mean and what the passcode could be. Meanwhile, they're like, all right, we're going to have to enter these mines. And Bill the Pony, not only can he not navigate the mines, but he also does not want to come with us because, like, he's a horse, and the mines of Moria are super not horse friendly. And Sam's like, what? We came all this way and Bill can't even come with us? Why would you even bring me here? Sam's like, well, fine, then I'm not going. If Bill the Pony can't come, then I'm not gonna come because Bill the Pony is way cooler than any of you guys will ever be. Okay? No doubt. And then Gandalf's like, no, for realsies though, like you gotta let the pony go. And then Gandalf whispers some sweet, sweet nothings in the horse's ear. And he's like, yo, Bill, you should like go back home to Rivendell or wherever else you want. I actually don't care. But like, don't get eaten by all of those wolves that attacked us earlier. And then Sam just like starts crying. And he just starts like absolutely wailing about poor Bill the Pony having to abandon them. And also probably the fact that now he has to carry everything that Bill the Pony was carrying because nobody else wants to. It was probably 50-50. Probably 50-50. And that is currently where we have ended. They are outside of the mines of Moria, just chucking passwords at the mines, and nothing is working. And also being a little bit ornery about this giant black lake that goes out before them, and they can't even really see the end of it because it's so dark. And so they're like, this place is kind of spooky. Kind of spooky. So, and that is where we're at.
Yeah, you did. We can take this.
On it. Your left tower is under
That's your daily book club.
It burns bright.
Daily book club.
Tower has been destroyed.
Now you know.
Ooh, I blocked it.
By ice.
The more you know.
I'm gonna back off here.
Okay. Can I end up getting that?
Bye, Brad. Say, USA. As someone who has not seen Lord of the Rings, do you love that? There you go. I will do my best to also specifically call out major differences when I see them from the book and the movies. The biggest difference so far is that that entire warg attack did not happen in the movies.
No, I have an Achilles.
The entire warg wolf attack series after they left the mountains was entirely skipped in the movies. They also, yeah, that's like the big difference. Because they did go up in the movies on the cliff, and then specifically in the movies, it's Saruman who's kind of casting them a spell to like bring down the mountain. In the books, they don't say that it's Saruman, but they also don't say that it's not Saruman. So that's actually up to interpretation.
I'm gonna prove you wrong.
So that's actually up to interpretation. And then they come down the mountains and they basically are just like at the mines of Moria in the movies.
He might be trying to follow.
And they've got a little bit more of a trek to get there in the books, and then
Yeah, I'm going Deathbringer.
and then they
I'm gonna
get ganked by
upgrade it
those
for the
wargs,
slow
and they're
proc
like,
too,
yeah,
so
this is a
just
total
the slows.
bummer. Also, Boromir is a lot less naggy. He's a lot less naggy in the movies, for sure. Because in the books, let me tell you, he's a little ornery about the whole... He is like, bro, we should really just do what I said. He's a...
It's probably the first time I've ever been first level 20 is because I was farming.
Gimli is almost spot on at this point. Like, almost spot on. He is just about as grumpy as he was. My boy is kind of a grumpalot.
Same thing as it.
Oh my gosh, he's all like...
Ready to close down Smite and just move on to the next.
I can be anywhere you want me to be.
Also, fun fact, it is explicitly stated
I think
that Aragorn is the tallest member of the Fellowship. Aragorn is the tallest member of the Fellowship, and then they said that Boromir was also pretty tall, not quite as tall as Aragorn, but he is also a bit stockier and a bit more muscular. Boromir's got a bit more muscles on him. He's a bit of a beefier lad.
Yeah, we should just
But Aragorn is the tallest of the party.
You will survive.
Let's kill her.
She's got wing blades, so I'm not gonna slow her.
But other than that, in that segment, the movies and the books are
Oh wow.
pretty well aligned
Focus so hard,
directly during that entire
Your team has destroyed a middle enemy.
that entire little segment. I would say pretty much as accurate as it could possibly get.
It's okay.
Alright, I'm gonna back you.
Basically, the entire warg sequence kind of almost happens in the Hobbit movies, actually. Very, very similar sequence. Very similar.
Made a sentry down on fire. Drop a ward left if you need me there.
I think they're just sitting there pretty much.
Your right tower is under attack.
There's no ward on fire.
You know, my tonight's reading should be action freaking packed though. Like, we're starting to get into
Seer's pretty
Moria. Woo!
Milan coming in
Woo!
from behind.
I can't do anything to this guy.
Also, Aragorn seemingly knew that Gandalf was not going to make it out of the mines of Moria. Like, Aragorn was super against going into the mines of Moria, more so than anybody. And it wasn't because he was like scared of the mines. He like explicitly says out loud to Gandalf, I'm not afraid to go into the mines. I'm not afraid for the Fellowship. I'm afraid that basically if we go into the mines, you won't come back out. Like he had the inkling that in order to get them through the mines of Moria, Gandalf was gonna have to kind of self-sacrifice. It's like literally explicitly stated. He's like, I don't want to put you in the position that you're gonna be in if we have to go in the mines. And Gandalf is like, don't worry about it. It's gonna be totally fine.
We need one more. Hey, Ullr, or
It was not.
Incon, can you steal a tower thing? Obelisk?
Nope.
Okay.
I can head over to Riley now. We can get a fire giant. Also, I actually didn't know. This was not something that I would have gotten right on trivia, but I thought Saruman became Saruman of many colors much later in the story.
Oh,
We're the best. But Saruman actually became Saruman of many colors
5, 0, and 0.
really early. He's already done that. When he captures Gandalf and puts him on the top of Orthanc, he is already Saruman of many colors. He has already changed from Saruman the White and got his full rainbow cloak on. So that was like the indication that he had like changed. I didn't realize it happened so early. He did it real early. And that's your Lord of the Rings update. Thank you for supporting the Twitchiest community. If you'd like to see more videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel and always hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. Thank you for all your support and have a Twitchin' day, y'all.